What if I told you that a claim is spreading right now across the internet that Iran has secretly received 500 intercontinental ballistic missiles from North Korea by Kur and missiles capable of reaching not just Israel, but even the United States? Sounds like the beginning of a global crisis, right? But here's the real question. Is any of this actually true, or are millions of people being pulled into a perfectly crafted narrative? Because right now, across YouTube and social media, videos with titles like Israel Doomed and US Trembles are exploding in views, pulling in hundreds of thousands, even millions, in just a matter of hours. The speed at which this narrative is spreading is almost as shocking as the claim itself. And at the center of all this attention is one very specific, very alarming idea. A claim that Iran has somehow acquired the Hwasong-18, a next-generation intercontinental ballistic missile developed and tested by North Korea. This isn't being described as just another missile system. It's being framed as a technological leap, a solid-fuel, road-mobile platform designed for speed, survivability, and long-range reach. But what's really driving the panic is not just the missile itself. It's the number being repeated again and again. Not 1, not 10, 500. 500 advanced ICBMs allegedly transferred in secret, now positioned and ready. If something like that were actually true, it wouldn't just be a regional issue. It would represent a massive shift in global military balance, affecting not only Israel, but potentially the strategic calculations of the United States and beyond. But here's where things take a critical turn. Because if this claim is not true, or even partially exaggerated, and is true, then what we're witnessing isn't just speculation. It could be one of the most powerful examples of modern misinformation. A narrative designed to trigger fear, urgency, and instant belief. Before anyone stops to ask a simple question, where is the actual evidence? Let's break this down calmly, step by step. Because once you strip away the dramatic language and urgent tone, the core claim becomes very clear and very serious. The narrative suggests that Iran has received a massive covert transfer of 500 intercontinental ballistic missiles. Not short-range systems, not experimental prototypes, but full-scale ICBMs. Specifically, missiles comparable to the Hwasong-18, one of the most advanced systems developed by North Korea. According to the claim, this transfer didn't happen publicly. It happened quietly, undetected by Western intelligence, unnoticed by global surveillance systems, and without triggering any major international response. The story then takes it even further. It suggests these missiles are now dispersed across Iranian territory and hidden in underground facilities, mobile platforms, and secure locations, not just stored, but fully operational, fueled, targeted, and ready for deployment at any moment. And then comes the comparison that really grabs attention. The narrative points to the United States and its existing missile inventory, implying that Iran, almost overnight, has reached or even exceeded that level. In other words, the claim isn't just about weapons. It's about a sudden shift in global strategic balance. Now pause for a second, because claims of this magnitude are not minor updates or routine developments. They are not subtle changes in military capability. These are the kind of events that would reshape global security overnight. And anything that powerful demands a closer look. Here's where things start to get really interesting, and where we need to slow down and look at the facts carefully. Because despite how widespread this claim has become, there is currently no verified confirmation from credible global intelligence sources, no publicly available satellite evidence supporting a transfer of this scale, and no official acknowledgement from major governments, including the United States or its allies. Now, that absence of evidence is not a small detail. It's a major red flag, because a transfer involving 500 intercontinental ballistic missiles is not something that happens quietly in the background. We're not talking about small arms or limited equipment. We're talking about systems comparable to the Hwasong-18, large, complex, and logistically demanding weapons. To move even a fraction of that number would require massive transportation networks, specialized vehicles and infrastructure, secure handling of fuel systems and components, deployment of mobile launch platforms, and most importantly, time. Operations at this scale leave traces. thermal signatures, satellite movement patterns, logistical footprints. Global intelligence networks, especially those monitoring regions like Iran and North Korea, are specifically designed to detect exactly these kinds of activities. Even a much smaller transfer would likely trigger alerts, analysis, and public reporting. So the idea that something this large, this complex, and this strategically significant happened completely undetected doesn't just sound unlikely. It raises serious critical questions that cannot be ignored. So why are so many people actually believing this? Because the story is perfectly engineered to feel real. It doesn't present itself like a rumor. It presents itself like a detailed, insider-level analysis. It uses technical military language, terms that sound complex, specific, and authoritative. Phrases that most viewers don't fully understand, but instinctively trust. Then, it introduces references to intelligence failures, suggesting that even the most powerful surveillance systems somehow missed this operation. That idea alone adds a layer of intrigue, making the story feel like a hidden truth finally being revealed. On top of that, there are mentions of satellite imagery, signals intelligence, and covert logistics, no ray, andridi and justai near, malware, mates. Elements that give the impression of hard evidence, even when none is actually shown. And perhaps most importantly, the entire narrative is delivered with a constant tone of urgency. Words like last night, confirmed, ready, and immediate threat are used to create pressure. Pressure that discourages people from slowing down and questioning what they're hearing. All of this combined creates something powerful, an illusion of authority. It feels informed. It feels urgent. It feels real. And when you place that narrative into an already tense global context involving Iran, Israel, and the United States, it becomes even easier for people to accept it without hesitation, because it doesn't just sound possible. In today's world, it sounds believable. Now let's take a step back and separate fact from speculation, because in situations like this, clarity matters more than anything else. Yes, North Korea has tested advanced missile systems, including the Hwasong-18. That part is real. These tests have been publicly observed, analyzed, and widely reported. Yes, Iran has an active and evolving missile program. Over the years, it has developed a range of ballistic systems and continues to invest in military technology. And yes, geopolitical tensions in the Middle East are very real. The relationship between Iran, Israel, and the United States has been complex, sensitive, and at times highly volatile. All of that is grounded in reality. But here's where the distinction becomes critical. There is a massive difference between capability development, which happens gradually over time and is often visible through tests, reports, and intelligence monitoring, and a sudden, massive secret transfer of 500 ICBMs. One is a slow, observable process that analysts can track and understand. The other would be a historic event. Nauer stays and esken sains. Something so large, so complex, and so strategically significant that it would immediately capture global attention. It wouldn't stay hidden. It wouldn't rely on speculation. At that scale, it would leave undeniable evidence, visible, verifiable, and impossible to ignore. And that difference is exactly why this claim needs to be questioned carefully. Let's assume for a moment, purely hypothetically, that such a transfer actually did happen. What would it really mean? First, it would trigger a complete shift in regional deterrence. Countries like Israel would suddenly face a level of strategic pressure unlike anything in their history. Second, it would place massive strain on missile defense systems. Even the most advanced systems, like those supported by the United States, are not designed to handle extremely large-scale missile salvos with perfect efficiency. Third, it would increase global instability overnight. Alliances would be tested, military doctrines would be reassessed, and risk calculations across multiple regions would shift simultaneously. And beyond that, it could potentially ignite a new arms race, not just in the Middle East, but globally, as other nations respond to a sudden imbalance in power. Now, on paper, all of this sounds dramatic. But here's the key point that often gets overlooked. Global powers don't operate blindly. They constantly monitor developments involving countries like Iran and North Korea through advanced intelligence systems, surveillance networks, and strategic analysis. Any confirmed shift of this magnitude, especially involving something as significant as hundreds of ICBMs, would not stay quiet. It would trigger emergency global responses, high-level public statements, rapid military repositioning, and possibly even visible escalation in defense readiness. But right now, we are not seeing reactions at that scale, and that absence is just as important as any claim being made. The real danger here isn't just missiles. It's how fast information spreads without verification. Because when millions of people believe something this serious, it creates panic. It fuels distrust, and it distorts reality. In today's world, information itself has become a powerful weapon, and sometimes the narrative is more impactful than the truth. So where does this leave us? Right now, the claim is unverified, the scale is highly questionable, and the narrative is designed for maximum impact. That doesn't mean tensions aren't real. It just means we need to separate facts from fear. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think this is just viral hype? Or could it be something bigger developing behind the scenes? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want content that breaks down global events without the noise, make sure you subscribe. Because in a world full of headlines, clarity is power.